Hey, all you space cats. Welcome to the Black Hole Podcast, Season 8, Episode 4, Mitch for Mayor. Mitch, the number 4 Mayor. I'm your host, Mitch Miller, the most neutral human being on the planet, the most transparent candidate on any ballot, and the most underground artist in the universe. Today we are challenging the DEA to a non-lethal duel, the Drug Enforcement Agency. Every agent, contractor, operator, and employee all the way up to the director of the DEA of the United States. I, Mitchell Miller, challenge you to a non-lethal duel. This can be done with non-lethal dueling pistols, non-lethal swords, or a scholastic wrestling match. Now, I've said that we should establish a code of honor globally. When it comes to conflict resolution, leaders should just challenge each other to duels rather than convincing masses to fight each other in deadly wars. And this is part of the process. And I've already said that my experience in pistols and swords is minimal, if non-existent. But I do have some experience in scholastic wrestling, so maybe you can find a surrogate with the same experience level to match up with me. My terms for the duel: if I win, you must use your influence and resources to require the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation of the United States, to be all female. So the FBI would be all female. We would transition the men in the FBI to other agencies, bureaus within the federal government, and recruit only females into the FBI. That would be the process to transition the FBI to an all-female Bureau of Investigation. All right, so I want to talk about ideas for mayor of Pittsburgh. And this idea I've had for a while, and it's in honor of my spouse's cousin, Jeremy. Jeremy was struck by an automobile and killed while riding his bicycle in the Washington, D.C. area on the 4th of July several years ago. And so here's the proposal of what I would propose as mayor of Pittsburgh. We purchase e-bikes, electric bicycles, for police. And these e-bikes would be equipped with cameras, license plate readers, and they can go the max speed limit of the city limits, 35 miles an hour, maybe 45 miles an hour if there's some roads in the city that are 45. And we pay plainclothes police to patrol going the speed limit in each section. We have our mapping system that I've talked about. We have accurate, street-by-street, accurate speed limit information on that mapping system. The police are equipped with that, and the public are equipped with that as well if they subscribe to our mapping system. And these police ride their e-bikes going the speed limit of each street. If a vehicle passes these bicycles, these plainclothes police officers, the plate reader reads their plate, and the city automatically issues a speeding ticket because they passed a bicycle that was going the speed limit. There was no reason to pass that bicycle. They were going the speed limit. These are e-bikes that can go the speed limit at any part at any time and can accelerate at the same speed as vehicles. So obviously we'll focus on recognized bicycle routes, but I'm not opposed to going down the side streets where children play and enforcing the speed limit in those areas as well. And this is going to begin to get motorists to consider bicycles as a factor in traffic patterns, right? And this can be applied to any city with a mayor brave enough to take on the motorists of the city. But I think it's a common sense way to bring safety to the streets of Pittsburgh and get people to go the speed limit. Now, I growing up, didn't always follow the speed limit, but I'm getting in my 40s now, and it's like, as you commute, why not just go the speed limit? And I've argued in the Femme Party novel about traffic and speeding incentives as well. So this is for bicyclists. Let's bring safety to bicyclists. I have other ideas of how to bring safety to bicyclists. And if we have our own mapping system, we can apply those as well. And hold motor vehicle companies to a higher standard when it comes to pedestrians and bicycles if we come together in a city like Pittsburgh. So again, I'm running for mayor of Pittsburgh as a neutral, independent, transparent candidate. Vote for Mitch and go to my website, mitchformayor.com. That's mitch4mayor.com. Okay, moving on to national issues. The media is not viable, right? We have a standing president that campaigned on the corruption of the media. And I say it for a different reason. I believe the media is not viable because, look, the government gave tax breaks to the media companies. And they gave tax incentives to businesses, right? They can write off advertising to a certain extent. They did this to build a viable form of mass media in case of an emergency. So the government could use that mass media to contact the public in cases of emergency. Now, the fact that the question, did Joe Biden drop out of the presidential race, was the top Google search or top internet search on election day, presidential election day, this past presidential cycle. It proves that the system isn't viable. These corporations, they've taken what used to be a viable mass media system in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and now with the internet, they're using targeted advertising and other methods that undermine the original mass media system. They isolate people. If you're hearing this podcast, you might be lucky. I'm sure there's people in power that don't want this to get out, and they can use their systems to suppress and hinder my media endeavors, right? I have no proof of that, and that's the beauty of the whole thing, right? It just disappears into the ether. There's no proof. There's no paper trail. It's just algorithms, big, beautiful algorithms, right? Just blame it on the algorithms. The point is, the system is built. The mass media system was built. And I've argued this in past seasons. We should have phased out these tax incentives and these tax write-offs. It's time. It's time to readjust the tax structure to bring transparency and equity to the American business sector. So what I'm suggesting here is that we redo the tax code, and what I would work on as President of the United States, or in the if I worked for the federal government, FCC, chairman of the FCC. I believe tax breaks should only be issued to businesses that give money to independent journalists, right? Let's shift it away from the big three media corporations. You have misinformation with these independent journalists, but there's a fair amount of us out there that, given the resources, we will bring good journalism with just a podcast or a cable access television program, right? So that's what I'm saying. These journalists could have these podcast, cable access programs, pay $1,000 to use the cameras at a cable access television station. And look, these people, they're more likely to do a full investigation into the businesses and products they're advertising on their programs, right? I don't advertise anything on my program except some of my friends' businesses I used to. and I've done investigations into those, right? If I were approached by advertisers and I had the type of income, I would investigate them. I wouldn't let them promote products on my program unless I knew they weren't made with slave labor, questionable environmental practices, so on and so forth. And all these journalists out there that went to journalism school that could be empowered by these tax incentives and these tax breaks and these write-offs, they're going to do the same thing. They have, they're going to investigate this stuff. So I think we should change the tax code so that in addition to the write-offs and the incentives going to independent journalists, I believe that we should also change the tax code so that an independent journalist can make $1 million a year tax-free. Now, the Constitution mentions free speech, and this structure can apply to other institutions guaranteed freedom in the Constitution, right? But if an independent journalist forms a coalition to do more investigations, then maybe that coalition, the organization that they form, maybe that is taxed and taxed more. But if it's just someone with a podcast or a YouTube channel, I think they should be able to make $1 million a year tax-free if they're a neutral journalist. If they question both parties, because we only have a two-party system in this country. If we had more, then they would spread that questionability out to other parties. Right? If they're neutral and they can be vetted as neutral and they walk the line of neutrality in most of their content, then I believe they should be able to make $1 million a year tax-free. The hope is they use this income to fly around the world and visit the factories and talk to the workers and make sure they're getting paid a decent wage, pay an interpreter, whatever you have to do. They're not using slave labor. They're not using harmful environmental practices. That's what that $1 million, that's why we're giving these specific individuals that tax break, because the hope is they will use their income not to buy 5 Land Rovers, but to fly around and investigate these companies that want to advertise with them. So you're empowering the indie journalists. The only way these businesses are going to be able to write off their advertising is if they go with an independent. That's the way you change the media, right? That's the way you change the media. And I'm not... Some of these businesses are going to, go with the conspiracy theorists that are passing on misinformation. But other businesses with integrity are going to find journalists with integrity. And hopefully they find neutral journalists with integrity. So that's how I think we adjust the tax code and the tax system in the United States. It's time to change it. If you advertise with the big 3 media corporations, you can't write any of it off. They might have the reach. They might have the targeted algorithms and use all the corporate spying and espionage to figure out exactly what product that person wants if they breathe the right way. And if you want to pay for all that, fine, but you're not writing it off on your taxes. Okay? The time for the freebies for these big corporations are over. Let's change the media structure. We have a standing president who said he wanted to change it, so let's do it. This is the way you do it. Empower the every person to be a voice of reason, of neutrality, to investigate these companies. If they want to advertise with us, we're going to look into them. And there shouldn't be anything to hide by for these businesses. They shouldn't want to hide anything. They should open it up. They should actually pay us to go to their factories and investigate for them. But that's not the system that's in place. So it's time to change that. So the last thing I want to end on with while we're talking about the media, Stephen Colbert's late night show was recently canceled. And yes, this is concerning. But did Mr. Colbert use his millions to visit every factory, investigate every business that advertised on his show? Right? Do any of these late night personalities fly around and investigate the companies that advertise on their show? I mean, yeah, on one end it's kind of censorship. On the other end, you were given those millions of dollars. Did you do the right thing? So I don't feel bad for Stephen Colbert. And what do you say, Mr. Colbert? Could you be happy with $1 million a year tax-free if you just had a little podcast and a cable access show? Could you be happy with that $1 million tax-free, or did you like the limelight of having your own late-night television show and all the prestige that went with it? What were you seeking when you came into the media? Please, Mr. Colbert, I invite you. Come join my media company. I'd like to remind you of my websites, plotm.com, that's plot, M as in Mitch, .com, mitchformayor.com, that's Mitch the number 4 mayor.com, almavoter.com, like alma mater, only almavoter.com, trafnet.org, trafnet.org, and theduel.us. Am I forgetting anything? I don't think so, but those are the websites. Check those out. And until next time, I wish you peace, prosperity, and homeostasis.